Microsoft's first Lumia is the Lumia 535. We're going to give you a quick tour of the hardware and OS and show you what it's all about. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, Daniel Rubino here with Windows Central, and today we got a special box from Microsoft. What is in it? We hear it's the Microsoft Lumia 535. And Microsoft looks to be continuing that tradition of sending reviewers stuff in cool boxes. So let's take a look what we got. And yes, it is a 535. So this won't be your traditional unboxing, as this is not the traditional box you'll get in the store. But as you can see here, we got the 535. We also have some Coloud headphones. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's the new booms, which are kind of nice. And then up here, I got a little USB stick with some reviewer stuff. And look at this, a nice little note from Microsoft talking about the 535. But that's not what you guys are interested in. You want to see the phone itself, which the big news, of course, is that it now has the Microsoft branding on it. The first Lumia to do so. So this is sort of a watershed moment here for Microsoft and the former group at Nokia who worked on mobile, who are now part of Microsoft. So this is the 535. It is an interesting phone for many reasons, and we're going to show you what it's all about here. Let's at first go over the hardware. You're talking about a 5-inch display, and so that is obviously much larger than the Lumia 530. That 5 inches is a 960 by 540 resolutions, or a QHD, which is a little unusual. And now 40 pixels of that is also for those keys, which, as you can see, disappear and come back when I swipe up or down. So that is kind of interesting. It is a nice display. It also has Gorilla Glass 3, so definitely high quality. It does not have the clear black display though, so it's not as, as perfect as I would like it, but it's still a really nice display and much better than the 530. Speaking of, if you want to see the 530, I have that right here as well, and you can see it's a very different device altogether, and for many reasons it is way better than a 530, which I'll talk about here in a few moments. Going around, it's a very thin device. It weighs only 146 grams, so it's very light as well. You got the nice polycarbonate back, which of course can peel off here, so I'll show you that in a few seconds as well. On the back here, you got a 5 megapixel camera. So same as the Lumia 530, but this one's a little bit better because it has autofocus. So that's actually a big deal. So this does have autofocus on board. It also has a nice little flash. Once again, the 530 does not have a flash. So nothing huge, obviously, but better to have that than not. On top over here, of course, you have your 3.5mm headset jack, clean on the left-hand side. Going to the bottom, micro USB, of course. And then you have your power button and volume rockers, the traditional style we used to on Lumias, and no camera button. Of course, this is not a pure view device, which is to be expected. Going to the front here, like I said, I got the 5-inch display, but this does have an ambient light sensor and a front-facing camera. Those are two things that the 530 both does not have. Now that front-facing camera is a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, which is really good. It's supposed to be the same one that's available in the 735, so you can get some really good, selfies or Skype time. Plus, that ambient light sensor also is really good, as it'll auto adjust your screen brightness indoors and out. And as you can see there, it's kind of faint, but it also says Microsoft there at the top. Once again, some of their new branding that we're finding on the Lumia series. Other than that, it is a nice clean device, feels great in the hand. You're talking about 8 gigs of internal storage. Once again, that's 4 gigs more now than the 530, so that's an upgrade there as well. It also has the magical 1 gig of RAM, so that's the big deal here. The 530 and 635 only have 512. It's a big limitation, of course, if you want to run apps on there, and so this does solve that problem. Other than that, you're talking about a 1905 milliamp battery, which is a little odd number, but let me show you that here. I can peel off the back. Now, this is a dual SIM version, so I have an AT&T SIM in there. It is, I believe, micro SIM, not nano SIM, as I found out when I tried to squeeze my nano SIM card in there. And so you want to make sure you get an adapter, which can be a pain, but this does take dual dual SIMs, although there is also a single SIM version out there depending on your market. You're supposed to get 13 hours of talk time with that battery. 1905 is not huge, and it is a little bit on the smaller end for Nokia's previous batteries, which usually ran in the 2200 range for some devices, unless you're talking about the 1520, which of course had a 3000 milliamp battery. So if you're curious about it in the US, this does work on AT&T, but I don't really recommend at least this version because I'm on AT&T and I only get Edge. So this doesn't even have an HSPA, so you're really hurting here for some data. I haven't tried T-Mobile yet. I'll probably give that a shot later to see if that's any better, but you know how these bands are, it's a little bit confusing. So far in the US at least, no announcement yet for a carrier to carry this, which is a little bit of a shame because, to be honest, it's a pretty phenomenal device. Overall, the movement of it is pretty good here. There is some stutter I've noticed, or a little bit of it. You can see how the text there stutters just a tad. That's probably going to be because of the higher resolution display, and at 5 inches it's obviously pushing a little bit more pixels. Speaking of, this is a 220 ppi display, so things actually look really nice on it. I do like the colors. And besides the stuttering stuff that happens when scrolling, everything else though is actually very fluid. You can see here when I tap things and open up apps, it's actually very fast. So here are my app updates. Now let's go into settings, because this is also very interesting and some more differences that we can find with the Lumia 535 versus the 530 and even 635 type series. Going to touch here, you do get a double tap to wake up. So, of course, there's no glance on here, which I think, you know, is sort of expected at this point. But it does have double tap to wake, which the 530 does not have. So that's pretty awesome and really good as an option. You can toggle on and off. However, on the display, you do not get the brightness and color profile. So for some reason, those aren't here. You do get sunlight readability, though. So that means when you go outside and hits the sun, this screen can ramp up really bright and, you know, overpower, basically. It goes to a higher standard so you can see things easier. You also have the battery saver for brightness there as well. This is kind of the cool thing here under audio. Check it out. You'll be very pleased to see this does have the full graphic equalizer on board. Once again, you usually don't find that in the lower end Lumia devices, so we're pretty excited to see that, as that is surprisingly a top requested feature I've seen from a lot of you guys. You really want that. Sliding over here, you get, it's not enabled right now because you need the headphones, but it does have the virtual surround, and you do have flip to silence. So as you probably have noticed, it does not have Dolby on there, which the Dolby stuff obviously is for the higher end Lumias, but still you are getting quite a few extra features here, including that graphic equalizer and the virtual surround, which is really good, and flip to silence for incoming calls. And that's because it has an ambient sensor in the front, so it can detect things when it moves. Other than that, you're talking some pretty basic stuff here. Let's go to extras and info, and you'll be happy to see, of course, Lumia Denim is on board as expected. And then you got your navigation bar stuff, which, if you're not familiar with Windows Phone 8.1, of course, we have a virtual bar here now, which you can swipe away, and you get this little tutorial. And you can, of course, change the color accents and all that kind of stuff when you, you know, for your own preference, which is pretty good. Let's check the OS version, and we are talking about 14.192. So that is one of the latest versions of Windows Phone 8.1. I checked for an update and there were no new ones. Now, of course, you can install the developer preview on this and keep getting those OS updates before the official ones, which is really good. Other than that, quiet mode, driving mode, all the stuff we're familiar with Windows Phone 8.1 is on here. If you're in the US, of course, you do get Cortana, which works very nicely. And I have to admit, so far, I'm really impressed with this. The camera is actually pretty decent, so I can show you that quickly here. A little bit slow there to load, but you know, I'm kind of familiar with that. And here's the camera, and as you can see, it does have the autofocus because I can, of course, tap to focus. On the Lumia 530, when you do the camera, it is fixed focus, so tapping the screen actually doesn't do anything, but this will auto adjust, and there goes the photo. It's only 5 megapixels, so processing is pretty fast. The photos look good. They are a little washed out in my opinion, but you know, I'm not expecting too much for this phone, which is supposed to retail for about, I would say, between $140 and $180. It's a little higher right now because it's just hitting the market, but you should be familiar now with how those prices tend to drop over the first few weeks as it goes wider. It does come with Lumia Selfie on board, which is actually a really nice app, by the way. Skype is on board there as well, including all the other Microsoft apps and weather and everything else. But the vibration is also really good. I've been critical sort of on some devices like the Lumia 830. I found the haptic feedback quite soft. This one's actually a little bit stronger, and I actually like the way it feels. And so overall, really a knockout device. I have to admit, this is probably, you know, if Microsoft's going to put their name on a Lumia phone, this is one to do it for. I think it's a really great compromise between features, price, and all the best of their Lumia stuff for emerging markets, low-end phones. Just feels really, really nice. I really hope a US carrier picks this up. If they could throw LTE on board, it would even be better. So far, it does not have LTE even internationally, so that's one area where they cut costs. But I would actually not mind using this device myself as a regular phone, and I think you should too. We'll try to do a full review on this in the coming weeks, but you can leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. I should also mention it comes in 6 different colors, including this green, and Lumia Cyan is back. So you can, of course, buy different covers and replace them, which is very convenient. You can see, by the way, the speaker there on the back as well. But head to Windows Central for more information. Tell us what you think and whether or not you're going to be picking one up. Take care, everybody.